Hello and welcome to another episode on Riskcast. Welcome here once again. If you're a new listener, you're welcome. If you're a returning listener, thank you for coming back here. If you're here to subscribe, kindly do. It's free. Now, before I start today's topic, let me give you a disclaimer. As of the time I'm recording this podcast, I have not yet come up with a topic. So whatever topic you are going to see is going to come as a result of a few of the ideas in my head. Yes, this is one of the topics. Like if this was like my usual thing I used to do some years ago, I would have called this podcast, this episode, a random. But this is not going to be a random because I actually have a topic in mind, and I think the reason why today's podcast is going to be like this is because I was not sure if I actually wanted to share a podcast on Valentine's Day, but I'm also a very cultural person. Like I've been trying to break out from that, but I'm a traditional kind of person in the sense like I have traditions that I've set up, and I try my best to keep up to those traditions. But like I think in the last 2 or 3 years I have not been so strict on those traditions, but there's just some I'm like, okay, I don't want to give up all of it. So for the last probably 5 years, I think I have tried to release a topic on Valentine's Day. And when I was looking at the topic I shared last year and I was like looking at the poster, I really, really liked it. I was like, wow, that was cool. That was brilliant. And I was like, okay, Valentine's is approaching. Why don't you just share a topic? And I have something in my head I'm going to share, of course. Something is always in my head. I'm always thinking about something. And so it's not hard for me to like talk about something. So of course I'm going to give this a topic, and mind you, you don't need to be able to. I already have something in my head, but I want to frame it well. So by the time you're going to be seeing by the time you're going to be listening to this podcast, this will have a proper topic. And I'm going to get that line where you get the gist. And back to the tradition thing. Before I go into this topic, I have done a number of tradition. I've upheld a number of tradition in my Christian content creating, and most of the times, let me be honest, most of the times I'm unable to keep up with some of my traditions, because there's is what I cannot help. Because I'm a drum of ideas. Like I always have something to share. That is something that, let me call it a gift. So I don't struggle with having something to share. Like there has been a very few times that I felt like I didn't have anything. That's like unlikely, because if I don't have a podcast, I have a vlog. If I don't have a vlog, I have a blog. I have something I'm writing. And when I was thinking about this year's Valentine, I also had like a bunch of poems that I've been compiling for over a year, but I've not yet compiled them into like a downloadable PDF. The last time I created poetry was in 2020, 2021, and that was the collection Quiet Memoirs, which was like a compilation of different emotions and experiences that I had gone through: loneliness, romantic. Will I say romantic? I don't know. Will I call it, because Memo 3 was on heartbreaks. And it was like I had like 4 volumes, and the last volume was on my relationship with God. And I'm really proud of that collection because volume 2 was on loneliness, volume 3 was on heartbreak, and volume 4 was on my relationship with God. And those took me years to, like, I had to go to my diary, I had to go to my Twitter space, I had to go to my a place I have compiled poems I had written, and then bring them all together and put them in those 3 volumes. And you can always get them via the main link attached to my podcast. You can find it in the link attached to this particular episode, and go to my seller book. You did find the 4 volumes there. And I'm very proud of the process it took for me to put them together. And of course, I designed my ebooks. So since then, like for the last 2 years, I've been thinking of doing another poem. And as a poet, I'm inspired by everything. If peradventure you actually link to this podcast via my Twitter space, if that is where you came from, I do a lot of random like quotes and poetry on my Twitter space. And like I said, I lifted up some of my poetry from my Twitter space, because that's where actually whenever I'm poetic, I go there and like do some poetry. But like in the last 2 years, I've had like a number of dramatic events in my life that really inspired some poems. And I've been wondering when I want to share that collection. And I was like, oh, if I was already ready, this would have been a great time to share my poetry. But no, no problems. There will always be a time by God's grace. When I'm ready, I'll share my collection. And I think this collection is actually going to be another very interesting take. But anyway, now let me go into this topic. Now, as a Christian, I can't say that Valentine is like, it's not a compulsory celebration. Like, I think the history of Valentine becoming a holiday or a day for people that are in a relationship or lovers to celebrate. I don't even know much. I know the history is like very interesting. It talked about a man whose name was Valentine and he stood up for couples. I can't really tell. Let me not say a story I don't know, but I shall know that there's like a sort of background to why there's Valentine's Day, and now it has become a worldwide accepted day for people in relationship to appreciate themselves, to show themselves love. And as someone who is single, I know that every year there's always this, oh, single people. Like, if in Nigeria there's even like a, let's say, well, I call him a comedian, like there's a comedy kind of themed music group, yes, comedy themed music group, that they released a song some years ago, and they do a new verse every year. It's like, Valentine is coming, where is your boyfriend? You are sitting alone, lonely. If you're Nigerian, you know this. So they release a verse every year, and just a way of like making the whole thing lighthearted, because as much as Valentine shouldn't be like so serious, like, oh, it's a do or die affair, it always brings up some very important conversations, which, you know, is maximized by both those in a relationship and those that are not. And that is one of the reasons why over the years, like since I decided to start sharing content on this day, I just think it's a great day to still share my thoughts on the topic of relationship or love or romance. Now, if we are honest with ourselves, like if you're a very honest person and you are honest, you direct that to yourself, you realize that there is no need trying to whitewash certain things just because probably you are not in that space. What do I mean? As a single person, doesn't make any sense trying to downplay the beauty of being in a good relationship. And if you're not married, there's nothing, like, you don't need to downplay the importance of a good marriage just because you're not in one. If you don't have kids, you don't have to downplay the beauty of having children just because you don't have kids. Like, and even if you don't want to be in a relationship, even if you don't want to get married, even if you don't want to have children, you don't need to demonize those that do. That's where I'm coming to. And I think that is something that I have applied in my life that has helped me to enjoy and to celebrate other people in my life when they get into that season of their lives, when they get married, when they have children. It has helped me to genuinely celebrate them, because I'm not doing it from a place of, oh, what's the big deal? Do you get it? Because there's actually a big deal when people reach this milestone, and when they get into good relationships, when they have children. There's something beautiful about it. And as somebody who is also looking forward, by God's grace, to have that in my life, I have no business trying to downplay these beautiful events. And that brings me to this topic about, it is beautiful to desire companionship. Like, companionship is a core part of our existence. The other day I shared a reel on Instagram and I was like, God did not put us on earth to be alone. And as somebody who loves to be by herself, who wishes that I didn't have to depend on people, who wishes that she didn't need people. Like, I wish I could do everything for myself by myself, but I have come to accept the reality on ground that that's not how life works. Like, you would need people at different phases of your life. And there is really nothing much you can do about it, because that is life for you. So companionship is a beautiful part of life, and one of the major ways about companionship is to be in a romantic relationship with someone, is to be committed to somebody, is to have somebody that you are in love with. Like that is one of the most common ways that we can talk about companionship. And it is something that desiring it is natural to desire that. It is natural to desire companionship. There's nothing wrong with desiring companionship. It doesn't make you less, it doesn't reduce your steez, it doesn't reduce your vibe. It's a natural part of humanity. And you don't also need to downplay people who have it just because you are yet to have it. And so, but then the fact that single people are often teased, sometimes some people also can be malicious, and single people sometimes do feel pressured to be in, to have a companionship, even when that companionship is not serving the true goal. Now, Valentine's Day is a day that reminds people about relationship. Of course, some people say, "Oh, you don't need to wait for Valentine to celebrate." Yes, quite all right, but there's nothing wrong in having something that acts like a reminder. Peradventure, you've not thought about it. There's nothing wrong in that. There's no big deal about that. Of course, like I said, as a Christian, it's not necessarily a Christian celebration per se. It's not a compulsory celebration. But at the same time, since on this day questions come up, it's good to always like maximize the opportunity and still talk about important topics that rise up. Now, like I said, if you listen to me clearly, I made I know an adjective. It's not just about being in a relationship or being in a good romantic relationship. It's not about just getting married, but being in a healthy marriage. It's not about just having children, but being intentional with having children. These are the things that actually qualify these relationships to be better. I like the fact that we are, like, especially in an African society that I am in, that people are beginning to embrace the fact that it is the quality of that companionship that matters more, not just the adjective of being a relationship, being a companionship. Is not just the adjective of being married, but the quality of it. And the truth is that the journey to having that quality may take a longer time for others than for some. Sometimes it may be because the other person on the other hand really needs time to get to know themselves before involving themselves in another person's life or having someone else in their life. Or it may be that you still need to be patient to find the quality of person that they need. Now, as someone that has been single for a very long time, I'm not going to tell you how long, but has been single for a very long time, I have learned more perspective over time as to why there is a blessing to discovering myself, to a blessing to knowing some things, and the blessing of probably not being in a relationship much earlier. Not because I did not want to be in one, but because it didn't work out the way I wanted at different times. But at the same time, still seeing the blessing that, well, I think it was still a good thing that I didn't get into that at that time with what I know more about myself and about life at the moment. And yes, sometimes it may work out for some people that even though they didn't have much knowledge, even though maybe they went into something as innocent or naive, things worked out for them. But the number of people that end up really having like a much tougher or difficult experience because they didn't have knowledge, a number of them are coming out, and it's a reminder that it is quality that would always matter more. And sometimes you can't appreciate quality when you don't have the right kind of knowledge, when you don't know enough. Now, but can we know everything? Of course we can't. We are always going to be learners until we die. But there is a right amount of knowledge that you need to have that may just make life easier for you. I also like the fact that people are appreciating the fact that it is better to be single and waiting than to rush to be in a relationship that would drain the life of you, or that would even snuff out the life from you. So even though companionship is a beautiful thing to be desired, it should not become the god over your life. It should not become the only thing that you are pursuing in your life. And mind you, aside from a romantic relationship, there are other relationships that can also add meaning to our lives, that we can also seek to have quality relationships. Like, even when you get married, you are going to still have friends, you're going to still need friends, you're still going to maintain a, if you are a quality person, you still need to maintain the quality friendships that you've had before marrying, because they still have a role to play with as time goes on. So it's not just about the relationship alone, but a quality kind of relationship. And I also like the fact that the conversation about, is not just getting to a relationship, but are you really ready for what that you want? And that's one of the things that being single still gives you the opportunity to assess. It allows you the opportunity to genuinely assess people in your life, the qualities that you want, and what you really want for your life. And people make this phrase, oh, better to be have a broken engagement than a broken marriage. But at the same time, the conversation around divorce has lightened with time. So people are no longer, avoiding these topics because they are in real time. But yes, some of these things too can be probably evaluated better, if done from a point of view of really assessing the qualities that you genuinely believe in. The topic I think I shared last Valentine, if I'm not wrong, was why you not married, or when will you marry? I think when will you marry, and I did a series on it on YouTube too, talking about. I think I shared that. Okay, if it's not last year, it was 2 years ago. Okay, I didn't share a Valentine topic last year. I just remember. I think I shared something else. And I don't know if I directed it towards Valentine, but I think I shared a different topic that was not Valentine. Yeah, so I didn't do a Valentine topic last year. I think it was 2 years ago. I also did a series on when you marry on my vlog, and I shared different perspective on this topic. And of course, since that time, a number of things I have realize that there's a different way now. I'm beginning to, let us say a different, not different, like completely not different, but like let's say an upgraded version. Let me put it that way. Because for real, there are some things that become more real to you when you practicalize them, or when you experience a part of it. And I had to have a number of experiences that showed me that there were things that I genuinely had refused to address as a person. And some of those things kept on repeating as I interacted with people. And the more I kept responding to those things and they were not pleasant, the more I realized that it had another way of affecting me. So what I had to do was to pause and ask myself, what am I tolerating that does not go in line with my value system? What am I tolerating that is not even allowing me to make the right decision on time? And I thank God that I was able to pinpoint some things. And so when some of those scenarios popped up again, I was able to address them head on, and just address it, nip it at the bud, and be done with it. So there's nothing wrong in desiring companionship. There's nothing wrong in desiring a relationship. But I think it beyond just desiring that, is also desiring a good one. And like, it also still boils down to, what do you define as a good relationship? What do you see that you admire? I am hoping that probably this year I'll be able to share a special experience that happened to me last year. I probably try to do a series. I don't know when I'm going to do that. Maybe this would have been an opportunity to have done that, but I don't want to let the cat out of the bag because I've not yet organized that thought well. Probably I won't do it as a blog series. At the moment I cannot vlog, but if any miracle happens along the way, I would love to have it as a vlog, as a YouTube series. But if that's not the case, probably I'll make it a writing series on my blog, and probably a podcast series as well. Like, I would like to share a very unique experience I had last year as a series. But there was an experience I had last year that just opened my eyes wider to a deeper meaning of what it meant to have a quality relationship. And it gave me a lot of thoughts as to what I had not considered before. And so another thing again is that I'm realizing that while I am believing that I'm going to get that good relationship, I'm going to have that good marriage, I'm going to have that good companionship, it's also being able to identify and spot good qualities on time, and of what measure. Of course, the Bible is there. There's a particular Bible verse that what popped up at one time in my head, and it was, every man we proclaim his goodness, but a faithful man who can find. And in the Bible also talks about the fact that a prudent wife is from the Lord, and talked about that, riches are from the fathers, but it is God that gives a good wife, God that gives a good spouse. So from what yardstick do you use to measure a quality relationship? So I think that's a very good question that I had to be asking myself, I had to be reviewing. And if you're also single listening to the podcast, probably you too, what is the standard? What is your yardstick for a good relationship? What is your yardstick for a quality relationship? And how are you preparing yourself to participate in such a thing? Beyond the gift that people are going to get and the and if you're in Nigeria and they are peppering you gang, what are the positive qualities that you are observing from people around you, or that you are hoping will be part of what you are going to experience? What are they, and how are you hoping that it becomes something that you are able to, make a reality in your life? I don't want to go to the point of saying, what if you don't ever get in a relationship? Well, if you are desiring companionship, I'm not going to hope that for you, and I hope that it actually comes at a very good time. And if you celebrated Valentine, oh, good for you, whatever. I hope you guys didn't give away the world to someone. Some of us are still inside. But anyway, at the end of the day, God loves you whether you are single or not. And if you're a Christian listening to the podcast, it's just a reminder that whether you are single, whether you are in a relationship, whether you are married, you belong to the Lord first. And at the end of the day, whatever you're going to do has to be a reflection of that. So with that being said, thank you for being here. And if this blessed you, do not hesitate to share. Do not forget to share your thoughts. And until next time on Rosecast, continue to stay safe and God bless. Bye bye.